And if Trump is reelected to a second term, whether he would increase the intensity of those policy actions, and it's probably a safe assumption that he would, in fact, do so.
If the presidency changes to Joe Biden, how do you think the relationship there between the US and China will shift?
Well, if Biden does, in fact, win the election, he's going to be under enormous pressure, not just from Republicans, but from Democrats in the United States Congress as well as the public media, not to end or slow down the various measures that the Trump administration has taken. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of criticism that Biden is surrounded by foreign policy experts who worked in the Obama administration and were responsible for not taking action when some of the things that China did really did require a strong response from the United States. And one of the notable examples is in the South China Sea, when China increased its posture, built military facilities, even though Xi Jinping had discussed this with President Obama at the time and said that it was not something China would do. So there's certainly a concern that Biden's foreign policy team would not be tough enough on China. And like I said, Biden would be under tremendous pressure, not just from Republicans, but from Democrats as well, to maintain some of the Trump administration China policy.
How do leaders in the region regard both Joe Biden and Donald Trump?
This is a really great question because from the outside looking in, we assume that a lot of the leaders in Asia share the concerns of the United States about Chinese behavior. But when you look at it on a country-by-country basis, it probably varies considerably as far as what their level of actual support is for the policies of the United States government. So Japan is an example where they're very much aligned with the United States. Vietnam is increasingly aligned with the United States on China-related issues. Australia certainly is aligned with the United States. Taiwan certainly is as well. But when it comes to countries like South Korea, because the government there is a left-of-center government, they want to reach agreements with North Korea. Some of the governments in the ASEAN countries like Cambodia and Thailand have very strong relations with the People's Republic of China. So it really does vary country by country. But of course, the United States is trying very hard to persuade more countries in Asia to take similar views. And to be fair to the Trump administration, they've had some success with countries in the what they call the Indo-Pacific region, signing on to a lot of the policy ideas that the Trump administration wants to pursue with regard to China.
Ross Feingold, thank you very much. An Asia-focused political analyst speaking to us there. Now, of course, the EU is watching closely the outcome of the US election. The bloc has clashed several times with the White House in recent years over environmental and foreign policy issues. President Donald Trump himself didn't refrain from bashing the EU on trade, saying that nobody has treated the US worse. The last 4 years have been marked by tit-for-tat tariffs that have hugely damaged several business sectors. Well, could relations improve if Joe Biden gets elected? Well, let's take a little bit of a closer view from Europe. We'll start in Italy and go to Rome to speak to our correspondent, Giorgia Orlandi. Giorgia, a very good morning to you. How are Italians following the election and what do they want out as an outcome?
Good morning, Rosie. Well, first, I'm just going to bring you the latest on reactions from here. We just heard from Matteo Salvini, the leader of the League Party, is the first one to react. He just tweeted that he thinks that Donald Trump is going to win. That's not a surprise. We know he's a great supporter of Donald Trump. Well, going back to your question, actually, Rosie, it's interesting because according to a recent survey, it seems that if Europeans were voting, Joe Biden would win the election. And I can confirm that, judging from the things that I heard here on the streets of Rome. And actually, Trump's best score was here in Italy, where 15% of Italians actually saying that they would back Donald Trump, but still the majority would support Biden. The reason for that, Rosie, is, as you mentioned earlier on, well, Donald Trump's actually handling of the COVID pandemic is really much seen as a failure, but not just that, the fact that he decided to withdraw from the Paris Paris Climate Agreement also is seen as the least popular moves. And together with that, his plan also to build a wall at the US-Mexico border. But generally speaking, really, the reason why Italians have been following this election is not really to know more about Biden's policies, but rather to see whether or not Trump will be defeated. And we know as well that Italians in general, despite that, still have a very good opinion of the US. According to the same survey, 35% of Italians actually said that they had a good opinion of the country. So they're considered to be the most favorable in Europe toward the US. Now, also speaking about relations between the US and Italy, they've changed so much over the years. At the time of the first Conte government, formed by the Five Star and the League Party, Trump was much closer to Italy. That's because Trump's attacks on the European Union very much reflected the attitude of both the League and the Five Star movement. But recently, we know that Italy has become a major battleground of this cold tech war between China and the US. Italy is one of the first countries to experiment with the use of 5G, and this is where China wants to invest. And this is an issue that actually was raised by US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in his recent visit to Italy. And finally, Rosie, well, in case Joe Biden wins, we should expect perhaps a strengthening of the transatlantic partnership. But Biden would perhaps demand that Italy takes a clearer stance on China and Russia, in particular on Russia. Perhaps Biden would demand that the Italian government takes a distance from Moscow. Rosie?
Georgia, thank you very much speaking to us there in Rome. Well, we can go now from Italy over to Germany. We can cross over to Berlin to speak to our reporter, Jonah